Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. So, I'm doing a review for Sistas, right? Season 3, episode 21, Curveballs. And y'all already know I'm going to need y'all help getting through this one. So, we basically pick up where we left off last week with Karen telling Zach that she's pregnant. And he's asking her, is she sure? Before she was saying, don't you have anything to say? And he was like, what do you expect me to say? And then when he finally gets ready to say something, she's like, don't you? And he was like, don't I what? And she's like, don't you even ask me, if I'm sure that is yours. And it's like, okay, well, isn't that a valid question? Because you were with Aaron too. Oh, well, I wasn't with him nowhere near as much, as you and Fatima has been together. I'm sure of that. And she's saying that is recent. But y'all, I remember, maybe I'm bugging out, okay? Her and Aaron sleeping together not too long after her and Zach slept together. So help me out in the comments if I'm bugging out and I'm remembering that wrong. And then she's saying it was only one time, as if it takes more than one time. So I don't know about all of that. And then basically, it's like if he's not giving her the response that she wants, he's not being excited about it. And then he's saying, well, are you even sure that you're pregnant? Have you taken a test? This chick talking about some, no, she ain't take a test, but, she missed her period. Yeah, that's a sign. But like Zach said, that also could mean other things. I would think that you would have went to the damn doctor or took a test first before telling him. But okay, Karen. So he's like, well, by chance, I don't want to seem insensitive, but do you have any tests here? She says no. So, he's going to go ahead and go buy one from the store. Of course, when he's leaving to go out, Pam is sitting there. Oh, how you doing, Zach? And he's like, okay, Pam. And she's like, you sure? She's like, okay. So then she goes in there to Karen, and Karen is like, acting like she's annoyed. Like, oh, what is it, Pam? She's like, oh, well, I'm just trying to check up on you. Y'all was mighty quiet in here. And she's like, I'm okay. We're okay. And she was like, well, then why are you crying? And, she basically just doesn't want to be bothered with Pam or whatever. And I could understand right now you upset and, some things are sensitive and you ain't going to want to put everything out there in front street. But I'm confused with her and Pam's relationship. It's like, first of all, she's the only one that's still left there with you at this damn shop. Obviously you trust her enough for her to be your assistant and, to leave her in charge of things when you got to step out and all this other kind of stuff. But then you be acting mad flaky with her at the same time. It's just a little weird to me. But nonetheless, then we get some Maurice still waiting there with the cops with damn Q behind, okay? Whatever with that. And we get Hayden basically on the phone. I'm not too sure who he's talking to, but he's basically finding out about, Zach and the stocks and that he's about to sell and that, his thing had went up to $1 million. And I'm like, well, obviously Fatima's conversation ain't do that daggone much because this boy is talking about, oh, dude is an ex-con and, how is he finding out this stuff? How would he know that? And he shouldn't know something like that. And it got to be insider trading. He's just a damn hater. And it's like, after you said you was going to back off of it, now you talking about, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm tired of the hating story too. Whatever with that. Seriously. So then you have Fatima coming in and talking to Andy. I guess she just trying to check back up with her as well. From the last conversation that they had. Excuse me. And we have Danny on the phone calling Preston. And she's like, all right now, Preston, I've been calling you and you were supposed to call me. So, of course, Danny ain't feeling that. And then we have Sabrina coming in. This is supposed to be the night that they finally supposed to go to that club eating with a guy had gave them the free passes for the stripper thing or whatever. Strip show. And she was like, I'm going to go ahead and call Andy real quick. No, matter of fact, call Karen real quick because Karen wasn't picking up Danny calls. Nothing new. They all found to have a way to treat, Danny funny at times. And she answers for Sabrina. She's like, hey, I just wanted to see, if you was down to go to club eating or whatever, that if you had got my text about it. And of course, Karen is in the middle of the whole pregnant thing with Zach. So, of course, she's like, no, I'm not gonna come. And she was like, okay, well, can you think about it? And she tells them that she will. And, then they hang up or whatever. And of course, Danny is like, oh, it's funny, you know, she answered you, but she don't answer my call or whatever. And then Danny and Sabrina basically start talking about Preston a little bit. And you know how if he don't act right, Danny is basically saying that she'll be out tonight and that'll be that on that. And Sabrina's telling her she looks pretty, which she did look nice. And, they basically like, Danny is saying, Karen ain't gonna come. And then she's telling her to call and check up on Calvin. And she's basically like, oh, I already spoke to him. He's on his way back home. He's good. His father is good and all of that kind of stuff. And Danny is just like, I need to get my mind right first, and that if Preston still doesn't call her back, like I said, she gonna go ahead and do her thing. She was like, I tried calling him twice and he always makes up an excuse saying that he fell asleep and, that he's tired when he comes out of work and that he's gonna call her the next day. And Sabrina was basically letting her know, like, well, that's not impossible. Maybe he really did fall asleep. And she talking about something, well, he got a cute cousin, like basically insinuating that he's messing around with the cousin. And she was like, well, do you know him to be a liar? And then Danny's like, no. And she's like, well, if you said he's never lied before, then I don't think he would start lying now, out of nowhere about this. And so, basically that was pretty much that with that. Danny is starting to feel a little insecure. But Danny, girl, you asked for this. You asked for the space. You said you felt like things was getting too serious, like you didn't want him living there with you. You wanted y'all to be able to get together when y'all could get together. So sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, girl, or you just might get it. I don't really know what else to say about that situation besides that. We then get Andy coming home and she sees that Gary is still there. And he's like, oh, I was about to get up out of here soon. I'm packing up all my stuff now. And he's asking, can they talk for a minute? And she's like, look, it's been a long day. I'm supposed to have plans tonight with the girls. She was like, what are you really going to say that I haven't heard before? You're going to say, I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about my ex-wife. I love you. She was like, it's all the same stuff. There's nothing different. And then he was like, well, there's one thing different. And she's like, what's that? And he brings up like, oh, do you know the chick that you was with the other day? Do you even know her name? He's like, oh, so you had a threesome and you thought I wasn't going to find out about it and all this other stuff. He was like, you didn't even take time out to talk to her and get her name. And so she's like, oh, okay, well, guess what? I actually did take time out to talk to her and I actually followed her on Instagram and I see some pictures where she's posting a selfie and basically it's somebody behind her with they behind out and I recognize the butt. It was yours. And he gonna talk about something, oh, that was a long time ago. She was like, no, that was recent. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, he knowing about her and the threesome, he knowing the girl and apparently was with her and just had been there the same day that he made the so-called call and was telling Andy he going to the gym. So I'm like, so now y'all done slept with the same girl? Like, what's happening? And she was like, nothing matters because you are a lying snake. She's basically like, did I miss anything? Am I right or am I right? And I was cracking up. I'm like, yeah, Andy, you are right in this case, girl. And so he telling her that this ain't shit and neither is she. And she was like, careful. And he's like, careful what? And she was basically like, careful that you say, something that you regret. So far, it does look like Andy is sticking to her guns. We will see how long, okay, that will last. But I was with her on this one. And so he's telling her the only thing he regret is meeting her. And it's like, okay, whatever. And then we have Zach getting back, to Cameron's shop. And when he comes in, Pam is automatically like, Dad, what you went and got all those pregnancy tests for? She was like, shoot, I had pregnancy tests right here if you needed to take a pregnancy test. And he's looking through the bag to see if the bag is see-through. He like, how the hell you knew I went to pick up pregnancy tests? And, Pam knows everything. I'm going to call her the all-knowing Pam from now on. And so, basically when Karen comes out, of course, she's upset and she's like, oh, you always all in my business and you always, knowing everything. Nobody asked you about nothing and you better not go and tell nobody nothing about this. And how did you know? And she was like, because I'm a woman, okay? She was like, it don't take a damn psychic. And she was like, I'm not going to tell nobody, okay? You don't have to worry about me, saying anything. And then she was like, can I go home? Because at this point, she don't even want to be around her ass, and I can't blame her. She gonna talk about you could go in the back and finish up or whatever. So when she goes, to take the test or whatever, she was like, why did you buy so many? Zach is basically like, so we could be sure. And he's waiting for her to go ahead and take the test. And he gets a call from Fatima where he's like, I'm at the shop. And she's like, well, what are you at the shop for? She was like, I told you not to call her. I told you to leave it alone. He was like, no, I didn't call her, but I did come here. And he was like, we talking about something right now. I'm not going to get into it over the phone. This is not something I want to say to you over the phone. Once I see you in person, I'll tell you everything. You don't have to worry about it. Don't think the worst of me. And of course, she keeps saying she don't like this. And then when she hangs up the phone, she was like, I'm so tired of dealing with this shit. And she's like, I'm sick of Karen. And I'm like, girl, we all sick of damn Karen, okay? You are not by yourself. And of course, he's upset. And he's just sitting there waiting. And he was also letting her know that he would stop by because he have to go sign the papers. He's closing out on the house. And as soon as he would be done with that, he would be on the way to her. And I'm like, girl, we all sick of Karen. This is just so, just ass backwards or whatever. And so then we finally have the police pick up Q. He talking about some, oh, can I call you? And I don't know, Maurice was still being nice to him for whatever reason. And we have Calvin getting home and he's coming in just as they taking him out. So he's like, well, what the hell was he doing here? Why was he here? Let me go check on my stuff. And Maurice was like, no, you ain't got to check it because I was watching him the whole time. He wanted to basically be here and have support while he waited for the police to come and pick him up. So I waited or whatever. And he was like, yeah, but why did it have to be you? And he was like, oh, everybody depends on mother. And Calvin was just like, yeah, okay. Then we have Karen come back out with the test. And she's like, oh, sorry it took so long. I didn't have to pee right then and there. I think she took like 2 of them. Not too sure if it was 2 or 3, but I think it was 2. She laid them down or whatever, and she was like, now we just got to wait to see what the results is or whatever the case may be. And he's like, okay. Basically, everything she's saying, he's just saying, okay. He didn't really, want to conversate. He just want to know what the heck is going on and what the answer is going to be. And she was like, we should know in a minute, though. And he was like, all right, and they just basically sitting, looking mad awkward. And then he's like saying whatever it says. And then she was like, well, this wasn't supposed to be my life. She was like, the age I am and that I always wanted to have a baby. And I always thought that if I had a baby, it would be with you. And he's like, really? And she was like, yeah. And then, she's kind of looking at him like, why wouldn't he believe that? Or why wouldn't he think that? Girl, okay, if you don't know, then whatever. So then she's like, oh, and he's like, what, Karen? And she's basically looking at the test, and then she's like, it's positive. So he's just like, he's not having a good reaction. At this point, he's literally like, he was like, of course it is. Just feeling like, of course, which other way would it work? And then she goes, what are we going to do? And he was like, that's on you. And she was like, that's on me, looking at him. And he was like, yeah, basically, he was like, at the end of the day, you're the one that gets to make the decision. I really can't tell you, what to do with your body or whatever the case may be. And then she's like, okay. And she was like, well, I don't have any other choice, do I? And then he was like, what does that mean? And she was like, what do you mean? She was like, I mean that I ain't having no abortion. So he was like, I didn't ask you to, which he didn't. And he was like, I understand it's your body, but I'm just asking. And so basically, she was like, but you think I should? And he was like, again, I'm not going to tell you that. He was like, that's not fair. He was like, but no, I think you should do what you want to do. And you should do, what you feel is best for you. Okay. And so he was like, I'm going to do what's best, what I can regardless. And she was like, I'm going to do what's best for this baby. And he was like, yeah, okay. And so, his whole thing is, no matter what, I'm not getting back with you. This relationship is over. And of course, she's upset at that. He's like, no matter what you decide, we're not getting back together. She's like, oh, well, you already made that clear. Obviously, I didn't, because you done asked me 10,000 times to tell you about the shit, okay? So, nonetheless, he's basically like, I've moved on. So if you need me, whether it's money, financial, to be a father, family, whatever, when you figure out what you're going to do, let me know and I'll be there that way. And she going to talk about, oh yeah, well, I want you to go because you pissing me off. You standing here being an asshole. No, I'm being a real. He was like, oh, I'm the asshole. And she was like, just go. And he basically repeated himself again, like, listen, whatever my role is going to be, in all of this, you could call me once you figure. And she was like, role, what do you mean? He was like, I mean my role. He was like, money, fatherhood or family, whichever one it is. And he was like, you got Aaron too, so y'all got to figure that out. And that's what kills me, because he's bringing up Aaron and thinking of him more than she is. Because you just told this man you loved him and was laid up with him, saying he's the best thing since cooked rice, but don't seem like you taking him into consideration at all. So find that interesting. But then she's like, I ain't do this by myself. And he's just like, yeah, okay, Karen. Like, you could tell Zach is over it. He don't really care one way or another. And then Pam comes up to check up on her. And again, she's giving Pam, the only attitude. And, Pam is like, listen, was it positive? And she was like, basically Karen starts crying and she just was like, why now? Of all the times that it could have been, why now? And I could understand that. That's an honest reaction. And that's probably how Zach feels too. Like, of all the times it could have been, why now? And sometimes it just is that way. Like, when it's done and over, when you least expect it, it ain't when you planning it. Most times it don't even happen if you're trying to plan it. But the minute you thinking you going in a whole nother direction, is like, boom, stuff just comes out of nowhere. And this is just one of those situations, I guess, where it was supposed to come out of nowhere and it's not, probably the way that either one of them was expecting it to be. But that's the way it is now. And, you got to make plans accordingly. And so then Pam telling her she's a good babysitter and she could be there anytime. So as much as she try to, play Pam and diss Pam or whatever, she is there for her. And she basically was like, come here, and was basically giving her a hug. So, that was cute for what it was or whatever. Now they have to go ahead and figure that out. And it's just, not a good situation either way you look at it. And so, that's going to be something they're going to have to work through. Then we get to Danny and Sabrina. They now at the strip club, and they waiting, I guess, for the dances to start. They still waiting for Annie to get there. And you can see that Sabrina's a little out of it. She's looking a little high when Danny is still trying to vent to her about different stuff that's happening with Preston. She just kind of seems real nonchalant about it, just not her usual self. And she's like, wait a minute, what's going on with you? What is this that I'm picking up on? What's happening? Oh, I just took a Valium just for the anxiety. And, when I think about Calvin, or I have to talk to Calvin, I feel like I have to calm my nerves. And, it's not everything. It's just the sex part. And I'm like, seriously, Sabrina, like, at the end of the day, if every time you got to think about hooking up with this man or talking to him about sex, you got to take a damn Valium, then this is not the man for you. Like, I do not like the storyline. So now you're going to be sitting here popping pills every minute just not to have a conversation with him. Like, girl, bye. I'm sorry. It's horrible. They need to go somewhere with that. And so then we do get Andy there, and she's like, oh, don't I look good? And, she's sitting down or whatever. And they like, yeah, and what's going on with you and Karen? Oh, she told y'all about that. We might have picked up on a little something. We did speak to her and she sounded upset. What is she upset about? And she was like, well, we might have had a little, interaction where she was dropping off some paperwork. And I might have been telling Fatima, that she should go ahead and be with Zach or whatever. And she overheard it. And they're both like, oh, my God, girl, what? Are you crazy? They was like, why would you have been saying that? And she was like, well, what should I have done? And they was like, keep your mouth shut like you've been doing, the same way where you was telling, Karen that you couldn't talk about anything. You should be telling Fatima that. And she was like, I tried. I really was, trying that or whatever. I wanted to stay neutral. And, they basically like, okay. And they was like, well, we surprised you walked away from that. We surprised she ain't, beat your damn behind. And no wonder she mad. And, things of that nature or whatever. They was like, you could have handled that a little different. And then we have, of course, Karen, I guess, changed her mind and decides to come. And she walks up in the middle of them having the conversation. And she's like, oh, so I guess she told you guys. What did she tell y'all so far? And basically they like, well, she said you may have walked up and you may have encountered a conversation. And she's like, well, I don't feel that it's right because at the end of the day, Zach still hadn't told me that he didn't want to be with me no more and that he moved on. And Danny is literally like, Karen, listen, boo, he did tell you, okay? I don't know if he need to say it in another language or what, but he told you. And then Andy's like, he told her, and she's like, yeah, he told you. And she was like, listen, he even, Andy says he even told Fatima that he was ready to settle down with her. And then Danny gonna talk about, oh, he moved fast, really? Then here comes Sabrina, like we all knew that her behind would do. She started talking about, and probably the stock too. Yeah, girl, the stock went up and he went up about 1.4 million. And they like, what? Oh my. And Danny talking about I got to get on him because he ain't even called me. He ain't telling me what's going on. So then she like, yeah, I'm sorry, Karen. And Karen basically still sitting there looking like a little sad lost puppy. And then she was like, he also bought a house. He supposed to be closing on the house today or whatever. He started the paperwork and, they like, oh, wow. So he bought the house and, and then just all gossiping about it. And I'm like, Sabrina, you need to lose your damn job because you are not supposed to be telling this boy business. But we knew she was going to do it. And Danny's still going, wait till I see him. Wait till I call him. I'm going to get on him. And so Karen is like, why am I so mad? And they was like, oh, well, probably because you helped him to get here. And she was like, let's not forget about that. And she was like, come on, we need to order some drinks. She was like, let us order you a drink so you could calm your nerves. You need to relax, baby. In the meantime, Karen keeps saying no, she don't want to drink. So then they like, okay, let's let it go. And then they like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the stage, whatever the dancer was. And then Andy, yeah, she would seem to be the hypest one. And they all looking and they ready to, see the show or whatever the case may be. And, then the guy gets down and he's dancing. But it was like, they ain't really let us see nothing. Okay, y'all could have showed us the dance. I would have been here for it. And so then we get Zach closing in on the house. He finally signed the papers. Everything is a go. He's thanking the lady. The lady's like, see, that wasn't bad. It didn't take that long, right? He was like, no. She was like, here go your keys, and he's just a smiling, cheesing from ear to ear. She's like, congratulations. You officially a homeowner. And he's like, thank you so much. It's been a crazy day. At least he gets to close out with this. And she like, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy. And so he's like, I will, trust me. So as soon as he go walking out, Zach is just trying to soak this in for a minute. He got his keys. He's giggling. He's feeling good. Who come walking their raggedy ass in the damn house? Just as he's dancing and like, yeah, baby, I'm getting my own home and just feeling, he was like, I got a lot of work to do though. Who come walking in? Hayden. Talking about knock, knock. And he was like, this clown. And Hayden, how you doing, Zach? And he was like, you trespassing, right? And he was like, oh, you want to talk to me? He going to talk about some, because Zach was like, I ain't playing with you today, Hayden. Today's not the day. He was like, I heard you, Hayden talking about, I heard you just closed. Congratulations, man. He was like, thanks. I appreciate it. And he was like, you may want to talk to me, though, about this insider trading. And I'm just ready for somebody to just, run freaking Hayden over with a damn bus. Like, is nobody coming through with a bus that he could just walk out in front of? I'm tired of him. And he talking about, that's illegal. Like I said, as many times as Fatima done scared him, it is not enough, sweetie. Y'all need to start pulling out a bulldozer, okay? Call up Medea, let her come through something, because I'm over freaking Hayden. I'm over Hayden. But I'm worried now how Fatima's going to take this news about, Karen and this pregnancy. And I'm curious also on how they are going to handle this Hayden. And, with him coming with these allegations that Zach did insider trading. What proof does he have? Does he just assume that because he's like, oh, he's this convict, so how would he be able to get this information? Like, I'm curious to know that. But what did y'all think about this episode? What did y'all think about how Karen, handled the pregnancy thing? Do you think that it is for sure Zach's? Like, when that baby is born, would you be telling Zach, like, yo, do a DNA test? I know what she said, but Dana don't lie. Like, just to confirm. Like, what's y'all thoughts? Put it in the comments. That was it, y'all. Okay, till next time. Talk to y'all later. And like, share, and subscribe, please. Okay, till next time. Toodaloo.